Hollywood has told post-traumatic stress disorder stories hundreds of times. Soldiers coming home, victims who can't move on. But realistic portrayals are rare. In 1998, a book was published that examined psychiatric disorders through the lens of cinema. Danny Wedding's Movies and Mental Illness analyzes film characters and their psychological conditions using DSM-5 criteria as a clinical reference framework. These are the 7 films that got it right. Let's begin.
And the glove. I might as well like
Enough!
Couldn't you just stay dead?
Isabel.
You're just mad because Mom would rather sleep with Uncle Tommy than you.
Isabel.
Brothers, 2009. Before Afghanistan, Sam Cahill is everything his brother Tommy is not. Responsible, stable, a man his father describes as having no quit in him. Tommy is the family disappointment, volatile, directionless, just out of prison. Then Sam is captured, tortured for months, and forced to beat a fellow soldier to death with a lead pipe. He escapes and comes home. The role reversal that follows is the film's clinical core. Tommy, left behind, steps up, remodels the kitchen, cares for Sam's daughters, holds the family together. Sam returns hardened and unreachable, projecting his pain onto everyone around him. His daughters openly tell people they'd rather have Uncle Tommy there. Sam's only 2 options, as he sees them, are to go back to combat or to die. What makes Brothers clinically valuable is that it shows the full arc, acute stress disorder moving into full PTSD, and refuses to separate the two. Sam's captivity is one trauma. Being forced to beat a fellow soldier to death with a lead pipe is another. He comes home carrying both, and the film shows precisely what that looks like. Flat affect, hyper-irritability, an inability to be touched by anything his family says or does. His daughters register his absence before anyone else does. He's physically present and completely gone. The secret of what he did in Afghanistan doesn't just haunt him. It makes genuine connection impossible, because every moment of closeness requires him to either lie or confess. He eventually agrees to treatment. In the hospital, he finally tells his wife, "I have seen the end of war. The question is, can I live again?" The film doesn't answer that, which is exactly right.
Martha. You look like a Marcy May.
Marcy was my grandmother's name.
Wow. There you go.
Martha Marcy May Marlene, 2011. Martha escapes a cult by running through the woods at dawn. She calls her estranged sister, who picks her up and takes her to a lake house in Connecticut. From the outside, she's been rescued. The film is about why that's not quite true. The cult gave Martha 3 things that are now impossible to separate from her identity: a new name, a reordered sense of reality, and 2 years of systematic abuse disguised as family. She was drugged, manipulated, and used to recruit other women. When she leaves, she takes all of it with her, not as memories she can process, but as a lens she can't remove. At her sister's house, Martha walks into Lucy and Ted's bedroom while they're having sex and lies down on the bed. At a party, her paranoia peaks and she loses control entirely. She refuses to explain her past. Her affect is blunted. She reads ordinary strangers as cult members sent to recapture her. Clinically, this is acute stress disorder, and the trajectory is clear. Without intervention, full PTSD within a month of escape. The accuracy lies in how the film handles the timeline. It doesn't separate past and present cleanly. Flashbacks don't announce themselves. A scene from the cult bleeds into a scene at the lake house with no clear boundary, which is precisely how traumatic memory works. Not as something you revisit, but as something that keeps interrupting.
Dave.
Dave's dead.
I don't know who came out of that cellar, but it sure as shit wasn't Dave.
Mystic River, 2003. 3 boys are playing on a Boston street. 2 men in a car take Dave away. He escapes 4 days later. Jimmy and Sean watch it happen and spend the rest of their lives in the same neighborhood, carrying what they saw. The film is about what childhood trauma does across decades, not as a backstory, but as the actual architecture of adult life. Dave Boyle, played by Tim Robbins, has built a surface, a wife, a son, a routine, but the trauma never resolved. It just went underground. When he stumbles home one night covered in someone else's blood, his wife can't tell whether he's the victim or the perpetrator. Neither, in a sense, can he. He killed a child molester he found abusing a boy, an act that his PTSD makes impossible to explain coherently, even to himself. His inability to give a straight account of that night gets him killed. Dave is the film's primary PTSD portrayal, a man sexually abused as a boy whose symptoms have never been treated, only buried. The tragedy is not that the trauma resurfaces, it's that when it does, no one around Dave has the framework to understand it. His wife turns him in. His childhood friend kills him. Untreated childhood trauma, the film argues, doesn't recede. It waits.
You can't drink in this house.
They told us.
Go fight! Go kill! Sergeant man, rain car! Yeah, car left! Car left! Car left!
You know, it's all a lie, okay? Watch out.
Money! Lies!
Born on the 4th of July, 1989. Ron Kovich enlists as a true believer. He comes back in a wheelchair, paralyzed from the waist down, carrying something worse than the physical injury. During his second tour in Vietnam, in the chaos of a firefight, Kovich accidentally shoots and kills a young private named Wilson. His commanding officer tells him to forget it. He spends the next several years trying and failing to do exactly that. The film traces what survivor guilt does to a person over time. Kovich drinks heavily, ends up in a VA hospital that treats its patients with contempt, drifts to Mexico with other disabled veterans, and eventually drives to Georgia to confess to Wilson's family in person. Wilson's widow tells him what's done is done. His parents are more forgiving. Neither response releases him. Wedding and Niemiec cite this film specifically as an example of survivor guilt within PTSD, the particular torment of having survived when someone else didn't, made worse when the survivor believes he caused the death. Kovich's guilt isn't irrational. He did pull the trigger. PTSD lies in his inability to integrate that act into any coherent story about who he is, the all-American boy who loved God and country, now the man who killed one of his own. The film covers 20 years. The guilt doesn't diminish across any of them.
Everything's okay. All right, now put your head down.
Fearless, 1993. Max Klein survives a plane crash and walks out of the wreckage carrying a baby. He doesn't call his wife. He hails a cab, drives to Los Angeles, visits an old friend, and eats a bowl of strawberries, a food he has been deathly allergic to his entire life. He doesn't react. This is the film's central clinical observation. Trauma doesn't always produce fear. Sometimes it produces the opposite. Max returns home a stranger to his own life. He stands on rooftop ledges. He plays chicken with traffic. He is celebrated in the press as a hero and a saint, which makes everything worse. The public narrative of what he is has nothing to do with what he actually feels, which is a complete disconnection from the ordinary stakes of existence. His wife, his son, his business, his body, none of it registers as real or worth protecting. The book flags this as an unusual reaction to trauma, and that's precisely what makes it clinically valuable. The invulnerability Max experiences isn't recovery, it's dissociation, wearing the mask of courage. He doesn't fear death because he can't locate himself firmly enough in life to have anything to lose. The allergic reaction returns when a lawyer brings a fruit basket to celebrate a legal settlement. Max eats a strawberry. This time his body responds. He nearly dies, and the film treats this as the moment he comes back.
Don't you ever leave me again.
I won't. I promise. Oh, shit. I didn't think I'd see you here.
The Dry Land, 2010. James comes back from Iraq to the same West Texas town. The same wife, the same people. The geography is identical. He is not. Combat trauma in cinema usually gets the Hollywood treatment. The flashback, the breakdown, the moment of catharsis. The Dry Land does none of this. The film builds his PTSD through the reactions of everyone around him. His wife who leaves after months of increasingly erratic, sometimes physically dangerous behavior, including nearly strangling her during a night terror, his friends who don't know how to be near him anymore. James himself drives several days to visit a hospitalized combat buddy, someone who was there. The film treats this as self-evident. No explanation, no dialogue about it. It's the only relationship in the film where James isn't a stranger. When a man shoots a rabbit and James ends up in a fist fight, the film offers no internal access to what triggered it. The viewer is left where everyone in James's life is left, on the outside, watching damage they can see but can't reach. The Dry Land opens the PTSD chapter in movies and mental illness for exactly this reason. Most combat trauma films explain the veteran. This one doesn't, and that silence is the whole point. Waltz with Bashir, 2008. In 2006, Ari Folman meets an old army friend for drinks. The friend has been having recurring nightmares. 26 dogs, the exact number he killed during the Lebanon War, chasing him through the streets every night. Folman listens and realizes he has no memories of the war at all. The film that follows is his attempt to recover them. Waltz with Bashir is an animated documentary, which is itself a clinical decision. The animation externalizes what trauma does to memory. Folman's first recovered image is of himself emerging naked from the sea at night, watching stars fall over Beirut. It's not a real memory. His mind constructed it to protect him from something he couldn't yet face, his presence near the Sabra and Shatila massacre. The clinical precision of the film lies in how it portrays PTSD as absence rather than intrusion. Folman has no flashbacks. He has gaps, 20 years of them. The amnesia is the symptom. Memory, as one interviewee explains, is dynamic. When details are missing, the mind fills the hole with things that never happened. Folman's first recovered image is proof of this. His mind invented a scene to replace something it couldn't hold. Wedding and Niemiec note that viewers may need to extrapolate to identify where Folman meets PTSD criteria. That's accurate, and it's also the point. The film doesn't announce its diagnosis. It reconstructs, piece by piece, how a mind buries what it cannot survive knowing. These 7 films don't explain trauma. They show what it costs and who pays. The diagnosis is the easy part. Living inside it is something else entirely. Thank you for watching.